Johnny CC here. Alright, so in my last video I said that I was gonna tell you guys what happened with the Ninja and how I came across this bike, stuff like that. So basically we'll start off with what happened with the Ninja. If you guys watched my accident and bike updates video, I kind of explained, you know, the accident with the Ninja, what happened with that. And basically the bike was totaled. You know, I was missing the left rear set, I was missing all the plastics, well, most of them. The left clip-on was gone, and I think there was some frame damage as well, and you know, there was a lot of stuff missing. I got it back to the point where I was able to ride it, and that was in December of 2012. And so I got it back and I started riding it up until May of 2013. And ever since I had gotten it back, you know, it just didn't feel the same way as it did when I got it. You know, it was just kind of giving up and everything like that. So in May of last year, I ended up going to the local Harley dealer. It's Laidlaw's Harley in Baldwin Park, California. And I got a little quote from him for the Ninja. And they originally, the guy had told me that, yeah, you know, we'll give you like $5,500 for it, or whatever the number was. I was like, all right, cool, because I was looking at this bike. And just in case you didn't watch my last video, it is a 2013 Harley Iron 883. Anyway, so I was looking at this bike. I told him, yeah, you know, that's cool. Let's do it. I told him I would come back like the next day or a couple days later or whatever. So I ended up going back, and the guy just happened to not be there that day, or he was coming in later or something. And I ended up dealing with a different guy. And that guy was like, I guess he was like the manager or whatever. But he was like, yeah, I can only give you like $2,500 for it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, they told me the other day when I came in here that you know, he was gonna give me like $5,500 or $6,000 or whatever it was. You know, I never really expected a number that big because it was the way it was. But I was like, okay, cool, I'll take that. And he was like, yeah, there's really nothing I can do about that. He's like, I'm the manager, I'm the last guy that decides what we're gonna give on a trade-in, and you know, your bike's in pretty bad shape. I was about ready to walk out the door because I was like, you know, that's kind of shitty customer service that you have one guy giving quotes, you know, which resulted in the deal for me, right? And then this other guy who I've never talked to before, he's like, oh yeah, I can only give you this for it. Like, well, that's kind of fucked up. But I decided to just do it, to just trade it and take a little bit of a hit, because the bike was the way it was, and I never really expected to get a whole lot out of it. So I did it, and I traded it for this bike. It's cool because one of my buddies, got one too. Very close to the time that I got mine. He got it like a couple of weeks or a month or so before I did. And they only had the two. They had his and they had mine. Mine was the one that was on the showroom floor, and his was in the back. And they had to assemble his, so you know, he had to come back a couple of days later for his bike, which was fine with him, you know. But it was cool to know that they were putting his bike together for him, you know. But mine was out on the floor. You know, I went, we did the paperwork, and they set it up for me, and I rode away that day. And I gotta say, you know, I've had the bike for a year. It's a very different bike. It's obviously not a sport bike. It's a cruiser, but it's a mean cruiser. I mean, there's not a whole ton of power or anything, but it looks mean. It's very agile because you got these sort of tallish bars, you know, so they give you a lot of leverage on the forks, and they're kind of wide, so you're able to control it really well. It doesn't have that great of a lean angle though, if I'm honest. There's times where I wish that I had some more clearance, so I could take corners a little bit quicker, but it is what it is. It's a slammed bike. A couple of things that I've done to it so far. The first thing I did is, I mean, you can see that I flipped the mirrors upside down. The reason being is that the stock mirrors kind of hang out up here, you know, and you guys all know for stock motorcycle mirrors they're just terrible. They're horrible. You can't see, well, most of them are. You can't really see anything. All I could see was my arm, and you know, on both sides, so I had to kind of take care of that. And pretty much the norm for these Sportsters is to flip the mirrors anyway, so I did it. And now when I'm riding, I got no view of my arms. I just see what's behind me, so it actually worked out pretty well. So I did that, and then I loosened up all these bolts right here for the handlebars, and I just kind of flipped the bars forward a little bit, just to kind of give me more of a forward lean, because I do a lot of my riding on the freeway to work and back and stuff like that, so I wanted to get myself a little bit more into the wind, because if you guys have never ridden a Sportster before, the wind is just fucking horrible. You know, there's no, I mean, I did this too, the headlight variant, and that kind of pushed the wind up a little bit out of my, like, chest. But without it, you know, you get that wind constantly, and you're hanging on for dear life on these bars, just hoping that you won't get blown off. So I did those. I did the forward controls, if you can see. This bike comes stock with mid controls, but you know, I wanted to do the forwards because I'm a little bit of a taller guy. I mean, I'm not super tall, I'm 5'11", but with the mid controls, you're kind of cramped up a little bit on this bike, and I do a lot of riding, so I got the forwards to kind of stretch my legs out and stuff like that. And more recently, I did two things together. I did the pipes, which you can hear, and then I also did the sissy bar in the back. I also took off the front fender a while back. I'm kind of just going for like a old school bobber kind of aggressive style look. and it's kind of working out. So my pipes are black Vance & Hines staggered short shots, and they're cool because they're the same finish as the paint on the bike, so they look like they would have come that way from the factory. But anyway, overall it's a good bike. Like I said, I've had it for a year. I've fallen in love with it. You learn to cope with things that are not so good about it, like the lean ankle. The suspension, the rear suspension is terrible. It's back-breaking, if I'm honest. You know, it's really hard, and not only that, it's right underneath like your ass. So any bump you hit is basically just traveling straight up your spine. So if you're thinking about getting a Sportster, keep that in mind. But otherwise, you know, it's not such a bad bike. It's got enough power for around town, even on the freeway. Like I never find myself, well, most of the time I don't find myself wishing for more power. I mean, there's times here and there where it's a little bit lacking, but for the most part it gets the job done just fine. And I'll kind of do a little pull right here for you guys. So it's got a decent amount of power. So yeah, I've fallen in love with the bike, you know. Someday I will be getting another sport bike. I don't know what it will be yet, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Hopefully within the next like 3 years or so, but that's when I'll be done paying off this bike. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens when that time comes, and I still got to decide on what I want to get. So anyway, this bike, 2013 Iron 883, great bike for you guys that want to start riding and you want kind of a cruiser but you don't want a 250 or something. I would suggest it. You know, it doesn't have too much power. You know, it's got a low down seat, very comfortable. So yeah, I would suggest it if you're looking for something to start off with or whatever. But yeah, so I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.